Hey guys, this is a quick video on the construction of emotion. One thing we want to avoid with both ourselves and with our clients is overanalyzing emotion, is overanalyzing where it comes from. Is it conditioned? Is it coming from my soul? Is it coming from my thinking? We don't overanalyze those things, because if we do, we get stuck in that one space. And when we look at the spectrum of, we look at the limited self and the expanded self, we want to be in more towards that expanded self space, which is being and flowing. So the way ideally we want to look at emotion is that it is whatever emotion we experience at any given moment is, in that moment, it is, that just is my truth, and it's inviting me to align with my true self. It's inviting me to act authentically in that moment. And I think that's kind of an important thing. In terms of the way emotion is constructed, no emotional experience is the same. This is what kind of current science is telling us, that if you have one experience of anger today and another experience of anger tomorrow, those experiences could be different within you. The sensations may be reasonably the same, but they could be different, and it could be that different areas of brain and body are activated. So I think it's important for us to have that sense, right? Well, let's look at emotion from the perspective that each one is sort of unique, really. And it could be that, yeah, it's a conditioned emotion. It could be that it's a thought-based emotion. It could be that it's just a sort of a soul emotion. But we don't want to analyze that as the first kind of step, as the first port of call. The first step is always, be it with us, be it with our clients, is that space where we allow whatever our emotion is, because the natural instinct, as I've talked before, that instinct and intuition are different. The natural instinct is to resist our emotion, and the reason we do that primarily is because if it's a uncomfortable emotion, the same areas of the brain are activated as when we experience a physical pain. So there's a natural desire to resist, and this is why when we're young, and young people, if emotion is overwhelming, or even older people as well, we tend to disassociate from that. We cut it off and we block it. And of course, this is one of the things that we're facing with probably the majority of clients that we're working with, that they have learnt very early in life to block or suppress their emotion. And it may have just been a drip feed over time, or it may be they would have experienced something traumatic. What we want to do is be in that space of recognizing, right, well, the construction of emotion is something, it's occurring, it's taking place in body and brain, it's non-conscious, it leads to feelings, and we want to just accept it as our truth in that moment. So, you know, I guess there are two different things. There's an academic perspective on the nature of emotion, what's actually taking place, you know, what gives rise to it. Is it conditioned? Is it thought-based? What affects what? And we know that environment, behavior, language, thinking, they all play a role in affecting our emotion. But when it comes to this, that's the one bit. But when it comes to working with ourselves and working with our clients, we want to keep it simple, and that's the crucial thing. And keeping it simple, firstly, is that allowing emotion to be. So, let's say we have that natural resistance, we want to allow it to be. We want to be in that space where our emotion is not a problem. Everything that you feel is okay. Now that, when you have an experience of that, that in and of itself is profound. Because there is this, as I say, this instinctive desire to suppress or escape from uncomfortable feelings. As we've talked about before, we have a natural tendency as human beings to want to move towards comfort and away from discomfort. And one of my beliefs is that mastery of life, to a certain extent, is our ability to tolerate a degree of certainly emotional discomfort. And this is where the kind of idea of focusing can come in, because if you try it with yourself, when you experience an emotional discomfort, you'll notice that instinct to resist come back and be in that space of, this is not a problem. I do not need to solve this feeling. The feeling is not a problem. It may be guiding me to take some action, but the feeling itself is not a problem. And just then allow yourself, as you would do with a client, to notice what is happening in your body and allow it to kind of flow and move. And as I say, if you feel that your inner being is taking you towards some action, then take some action. But the most important thing is allowing the sensations, is allowing the feeling, and trusting. And this is where kind of trust of that deeper wisdom, trust of the expanded self rather than the limited self comes in, the true self. Because when we trust that, well, I'll be guided to whatever I need to do, all I need to do is kind of get out of the way. And that's the space we want to be in. That's the space we want to be working in. And that's also the space we want to be guiding clients to. Now, of course, this is talking about emotion. So when we're dealing with clients with lots of symptoms, it'll be too soon to be dealing with this. But if we're dealing with clients with fewer symptoms and more emotions, or clients in a coaching environment where we're just talking about emotions, then this stuff is critical. Because it is all about allowing the emotion, because we don't control. I can't control the emotion I'm going to experience in the next minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But I can impact the direction of my emotional experience into the future. And we'll talk about that more in other videos. Focus is one of those things, the things that we place our focus of attention upon. And we'll be talking about that more as we get into discussing the co-creation of our own experience. But for now, it's the idea of the construction of emotion is something that our emotional experience can be different. One experience of anger can be different from the next experience of anger. The most important thing is that we accept that, and we do this work for our clients. We invite them to accept that in that moment, that's their emotional truth. We don't need to find meaning in it. We don't need to analyze it. We don't want to resist it or block it. We want to allow it to be there. Be aware of the sensations of it and get a sense of, is it nudging me to take some action? If so, what is that action? Okay, hope that's useful.